This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the Sports Roundup. We have a packed show today covering major playoff shifts, controversial league reforms, and the legacy of a horse racing legend. Let's get right into the headlines.
Utah Mammoth face elimination after a double overtime collapse.
The Flyers eliminate the Penguins in a heartbreaking overtime.
Sean McVay explains the Rams' shocking first-round quarterback pick.
Deshaun Watson leads the Browns' quarterback race over Shadir.
The NBA's new lottery system sparks confusion and criticism.
March Madness expansion to 76 teams is officially coming.
Secretariat's bloodline dominates the upcoming Kentucky Derby field.
Brett Howden's shorthanded goal secures a Vegas thriller win.
First, the Mammoth collapse. The Utah Mammoth were just 52 seconds away from taking a commanding lead in their series against the Vegas Golden Knights, but the momentum shifted in a heartbeat. After a grueling double overtime battle, Utah fell 5-4 in Game 5, leaving them on the brink of elimination as they head back to Salt Lake City. It was a devastating way to lose, especially after Michael Carcone put the Mammoth ahead late in regulation. Pavel Dorofeyev was the hero for Vegas, completing a hat trick with the game-tying goal in the final minute of the third period. The emotional toll of this loss cannot be overstated, as Utah had the win within their grasp before the Golden Knights forced the extra frames and eventually secured the victory.
The finish was particularly painful because it ended on a short-handed goal by Brett Howden in the second overtime. Utah had several chances to end it earlier, but they couldn't capitalize on their opportunities. Now, trailing 3-2 in the series, the Mammoth have no margin for error. They must win Game 6 at the Delta Center on Friday night to force a winner-take-all Game 7 back in Las Vegas. The pressure is immense, as the team had high hopes of making a deep run in their first-round Stanley Cup playoff series. Coach and players alike will need to find a way to flush this disappointment quickly and focus on the must-win scenario ahead of them. The atmosphere in Salt Lake City is expected to be electric, but the team needs results.
Next, the Penguins exit. The Pittsburgh Penguins' surprising season has come to a sudden and heartbreaking end. Despite a valiant effort to overcome a 3-0 series deficit, the Penguins were eliminated in Game 6 by the Philadelphia Flyers. The deciding blow came from Flyers defenseman Cam York, who scored an overtime goal to seal the series. It is a tough pill to swallow for a Pittsburgh team that many experts didn't even expect to make the playoffs this year. They showed incredible resilience by winning 2 straight games to stay alive, but they just couldn't find the back of the net when it mattered most in the final game. The Penguins actually controlled much of the play throughout the contest, outshooting Philadelphia 42-32, but they ran into a literal brick wall in the Flyers' goaltender.
That goaltender was Dan Vladar, who earned a 42-save shutout to end Pittsburgh's hopes. On the other side, Arturs Silovs was also outstanding for the Penguins, stopping 31 of 32 shots. Silovs finished the series with an impressive .939 save percentage, allowing only 5 goals on 82 shots over 3 games. It really came down to a lost faceoff and a shot through traffic that found its way in during the overtime period. While the loss is devastating, the Penguins can look back on this season as a success in terms of exceeding expectations and showing they still have a competitive core. Now, the focus shifts to the offseason and how the front office will build on this momentum to ensure they aren't just a first-round exit next year.
Now to the Rams. Sean McVay is finally opening up about the Los Angeles Rams' decision to use their first-round pick on Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson. This move shocked the NFL world, especially since the Rams still have the reigning MVP, Matthew Stafford, leading the offense. McVay explained to Colin Cowherd that this wasn't a snap judgment, but rather the result of months of scouting and evaluation. He emphasized that there wasn't a single aha moment, but rather a growing belief in Simpson's long-term potential to become a starting quarterback in the league. McVay was very clear that while they are excited to have Simpson, the team is still focused on winning right now with Stafford. It is a classic case of a team trying to balance short-term success with long-term stability at the most important position.
Simpson only had 1 year as a starter at Alabama, which makes the pick even gutsier. However, that one season was impressive, featuring over 3,500 passing yards and 30 total touchdowns. He also led the Crimson Tide to 4 straight wins over top 25 teams. Some analysts, like Rob Rang, gave the pick a B grade, calling it the gutsiest move of the first round. The concern for many is whether the Rams, who are considered Super Bowl contenders for 2026, should have used that 13th overall pick on a player who could contribute immediately. By choosing a developmental quarterback, they are betting heavily on the future, while Stafford is still in his prime. It will be fascinating to see how Simpson develops under McVay's tutelage, and how this affects the team's chemistry in the short term.
Moving to the Browns. In Cleveland, the quarterback situation is taking an unexpected turn. Despite the hype surrounding rookie Shedeur Sanders, reports indicate that veteran Deshaun Watson currently has the inside track for the starting job. This comes after Watson's performance in voluntary minicamp, where he reportedly showed an edge over the younger competition. It is a surprising development given Watson's recent history, including a major injury in 2024 and a lack of consistent playing time over the last few years. Fans and analysts were largely expecting a fresh start at the position, but the coaching staff seems to be leaning toward experience for now. The Browns did have a successful draft overall, adding key pieces like Spencer Fano and Casey Concepcion. But the question of who will lead the offense remains the biggest storyline heading into the summer months.
The data suggests why the Browns might be hesitant to hand the keys to the rookies just yet. Last season, both Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel struggled significantly with efficiency metrics, landing at the bottom of the league in expected points added per pass. While Watson's own recent stats aren't exactly stellar, the team might feel he offers a higher floor as they try to capitalize on a roster that many believe is ready to win now. It is a high-stakes gamble for a franchise that has spent years searching for stability at quarterback. If Watson can regain even a fraction of his former Pro Bowl form, the Browns could be dangerous. However, if he continues to struggle or faces further injury setbacks, the pressure to pivot to Sanders will become overwhelming very quickly for the Cleveland front office.
Next, NBA lottery changes. The NBA is introducing a new 3-2-1 lottery system that is already causing a lot of confusion and frustration across the league. Commissioner Adam Silver pushed this through to combat tanking, but many feel the solution is worse than the problem. Under the new rules, the 3 worst teams actually lose ping pong balls, while teams finishing 4th through 10th get the most chances. It essentially turns the distribution of top talent into a game of complete randomness. Furthermore, teams can no longer land the number 1 pick in back-to-back years, and they can't pick in the top 5 3 times in a row. While the goal of stopping teams from losing on purpose is noble, the complexity of these rules makes it difficult for fans to follow and for front offices to plan their long-term strategies effectively.
The timing of this change is also being criticized. The new system is set to take effect for the 2027 draft, but teams have already made major trades based on the old incentives. For example, the Chicago Bulls and Memphis Grizzlies moved key players recently to position themselves for better draft odds under the previous rules. Now, those decisions look very different. This new format seems to reward mediocrity rather than helping the truly struggling teams rebuild through the draft. By expanding the lottery to 16 teams and making the first 16 spots subject to the drawing, the NBA is significantly altering the value of draft picks. It remains to be seen if this will actually stop tanking or if it will just create a new set of loopholes that savvy general managers will eventually exploit.
Now, March Madness expansion. It looks like the change no one asked for is officially coming to college basketball. The NCAA is moving forward with plans to expand the men's and women's tournaments to 76 teams starting in 2027. This news has been met with almost universal disapproval from fans and media members alike. The NCAA tournament is widely considered the most perfect postseason format in American sports, and many feel that adding more teams will only dilute the product. There is no clear competitive reason for the expansion, as the current 68-team field already provides plenty of excitement and Cinderella stories. The move appears to be driven almost entirely by financial interests, even though the actual revenue increase from these extra games might be relatively small compared to the backlash the organization is facing from its core audience.
What makes this even more ironic is that if you polled fans, most would actually prefer the tournament go back to 64 teams. The NCAA tournament brings in about $1 billion a year, which is 90% of the entity's annual revenue. Messing with such a successful formula seems incredibly risky. Critics argue that adding more mediocre teams to the field will make the early rounds less meaningful and could hurt the overall brand of March Madness. Despite the pushback, the formalization of the 76-team format is expected in the coming weeks. It is another example of how the landscape of college sports is shifting rapidly. often in ways that prioritize short-term gains over the long-term traditions that made the game so popular in the first place. We will see if the magic remains.
Next, Secretariat's legacy. As we approach the Kentucky Derby, the shadow of the legendary Secretariat looms larger than ever. It turns out that 19 of the 20 horses in this year's field are direct descendants of the 1973 Triple Crown winner. This is a testament to the incredible genetic legacy Secretariat left behind after breaking records in all 3 of his major races. He sired over 600 registered foals, and his bloodline has become the gold standard in the world of horse racing. Last year, every single horse in the Derby was a descendant, and this year is nearly identical. It is a remarkable statistic that shows just how much one horse can influence an entire industry decades later. When fans look at the statue of Secretariat at Churchill Downs, they are looking at the ancestor of almost every competitor on the track.
The only exception in this year's field is a chestnut colt named Emerging Market. Despite not having Secretariat in his pedigree, Emerging Market has a perfect 2-for-0 record and recently won the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby. He even managed that win while recovering from a case of pneumonia, which makes his presence in the field even more impressive. For the other 19 horses, they carry the weight of expectations that come with such a prestigious lineage. The fact that 95% of the field shares this common ancestor highlights the narrow but elite pool of talent in top-tier racing. As the horses line up for the 152nd running of the Derby, the legacy of the big red stallion will be felt in every stride. It is a unique connection to history that few other sports can claim.
Finally, the Vegas thriller. The Vegas Golden Knights' victory over the Utah Mammoth in Game 5 was a true masterclass in resilience. While Pavel Dorofiev's hat trick will get a lot of the headlines, the real story might be the incredible play of Brett Howden. Howden scored his second shorthanded goal in as many games to win it in double overtime, a feat that is almost unheard of in the high-stakes environment of the NHL playoffs. The game was a back-and-forth affair from the start, with both teams trading leads and scoring chances. Vegas found themselves down late in the third period, but they never panicked. Dorofiev's equalizer with less than a minute left was a gut punch to Utah and set the stage for the overtime drama. It was the kind of win that can define a championship run for a veteran team.
The statistics from the game show just how close it was. Both teams had 7 shots in a tight first period, but Utah eventually found their rhythm in the second, outchancing Vegas 12-9. The Mammoth actually held a 3-2 lead going into the second intermission, but the Golden Knights' power play and timely scoring kept them in it. Jack Eichel was a force on the ice, contributing to multiple scoring plays and winning key faceoffs. The Mammoth's defense, led by Mikhail Sergachev and John Marino, played well for long stretches, but they couldn't stop the relentless Vegas attack in the final minutes. Now, the Golden Knights have all the momentum as they look to close out the series. For Utah, they have to figure out how to stop the short-handed threats that have plagued them in consecutive games.
That wraps up our sports roundup for today. Thank you for joining us for these top stories. Be sure to check back tomorrow for another update on everything moving the world of sports.